Sessions. My name is Ebony.
And I'm Eliza, and we are two brown chicks changing the face of therapy on both sides of the couch.
So obviously we have had a lot going on in the last 15 minutes. But we appreciate everybody for joining us. Today we have Brittainy Oliver. I was about to call you Brittainy Noel.
Brittainy Oliver. That's her name. Brittainy Oliver was our last week's guest. See this heat.
Oh my gosh. Brittainy Noel.
This heat has us just brain fried.
It's just a lot.
Okay.
We appreciate you for coming.
Brittainy Noel. Yes.
My name is Brittainy Noel.
Right. Brittainy Oliver was our guest about 2 weeks ago.
Right. Brittainy, yes.
Gotcha.
So we appreciate you for coming and all of our craziness. But like you always say, whenever it's a lot of craziness, that means it's probably going to be a good show.
Right. When it takes a while to kind of get the show going, we know it's going to be good.
Right. Right.
Especially what we're talking about today.
Yes.
We are talking about transformation.
Transformation.
Yes.
So before we get started, we would love to know just a little bit more about you, how you moved into private practice, and then we learned about you from one of the projects that you have going on. So you can share a little bit about that.
So my name is Brittainy Noel, and I am a therapist and growth coach. And my background, I've always done treatment in trauma settings. So I was working at MD Anderson doing end of life, and left there and went to the VA doing PTSD treatment.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So for four and a half years, I worked on an inpatient PTSD intensive treatment where we worked with all of the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans who were coming home and needed help to overcome the traumas that they experienced while they were in combat. So I worked only with combat veterans. And of course, they were the younger generation of veterans. So definitely they come with their own set of challenges.
I'm sure.
So what unique challenges do they have?
Well, for them, they're different from the World War II veterans and the Vietnam veterans in the sense that these are millennials, They have access to the internet. So they come in having self-diagnosed themselves. They already in their mind. Right, they have a treatment plan. They're going to tell you how we're going to do it.
Right.
Exactly. So, as a therapist, you have to set those ground rules up front. And with trauma therapy, what I loved about our unit was the fact that we were able to, even with this population, it's a very unique population, and as a therapist, you're empowered to be very confrontational because the program, they were there for 5 weeks. So in 5 weeks, we don't have time to get you ready. You have to come in ready, and we started on day one. So we have to be very stern. We have to be very upfront. We have to be very transparent, and that's nothing with the younger population. They value your transparency. They value you being direct and calling them on it because, they don't want you to beat around the bush. They don't want you to, feel like they're being fluffed or feel like they're being, coddled in any way.
Right.
So
especially being in the military.
Exactly. Exactly. So that was most of my background. So my background has always been in trauma. So I've, always taken a liking to working with people with, those complex issues because and related to trauma, they always had childhood stuff. It was never just the military.
Right.
It was everything that happened before you went into the military too. Yeah. So now we have to work with that. We got to deal with your relationships. We got to deal with, the kids and the wife and all of those things.
Compounds.
In one. Exactly. Yeah. So it was very intense treatment, very intense.
Wow.
And then it was during that time where I was working with them that I was also, I'm going to say moonlighting, but I've never had just one job. I'm not good at just having one job.
As most entrepreneurs.
I always had 3 or 4 jobs.
Yeah.
So I was also working as a PRN therapist for, the smaller hospitals like West Oaks, Bel Air. And I was doing that like on the weekends. And there was where I worked with a lot of women. And I think it just kind of happened where, I was able to go in and just use my, they don't have a lot of structure in those hospitals. So come in and do something for the weekend, So I was given the freedom to develop my own protocols and develop my own curriculums. And, this is what we're going to do from Saturday to Sunday. Like, this is what we're going to see happen. And the transformation that would happen in just 2 days from the time I come in and they're completely defeated or just not engaged in the process. And when you come in and just command their attention and start identifying patterns and pathologies, and really it was more intensive than what they were used to.
Right.
And you see that transformation. I would always end it with Sunday making sure that they left with a plan. So this Sunday, you know, I won't be here tomorrow. So,
Right.
So how are you going to use what you just learned about yourself moving forward and when you leave here?
Oh,
Okay.
I love that.
And so it was in there that I realized, you know what, I can probably do this on my own.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
you know, I probably could do this.
I'm doing it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, especially when they're asking like, okay, well, when I leave the hospital, like, how can I stay with you and how can I work with you? And I was
Right.
like, well, I don't know yet. Let me figure it
Let
out.
me figure out a way.
Love that.
Exactly. So that's how I went into my own private practice.
Okay.
And the name of your private practice again is?
It's just Brittainy Noel.
It's just Brittainy Noel. I like
It's
that.
Brittainy Noel.
Easy to find.
Right.
Yes.
Make it
We're
easy.
working on transforming,
Yes.
more transformation as my business grows and transform. I have a larger vision for it
Mhm.
now, which I'm still working out the kinks of getting it, you know, pushed out into the world.
Mhm.
But that'll have a different name.
I love it.
Yeah.
That is to be continued.
Right.
Continued.
So what do you think is your biggest or greatest transformation?
For me, I think my biggest transformation was going from what I call an underdog to the overcomer. And I've learned that, you know, when I post like videos on Instagram or whenever I just go out and speak, I know that that's kind of like my niche, is helping people who feel like they, you know, started out disadvantaged and started out without the tools that they needed yet. They still have these big dreams. They still have things that they want to accomplish. They don't have the tools or the resources. And for me, I am the first generation of just about everything in my family. So first generation graduate, first generation to leave home, first generation to, you know, X, Y, Z.
Right.
Know? So there was no blueprint for me. There was no, you know, anyone, when I was filling out college applications, there was no one that I can say, hey, can you help me with this?
Right.
You know, when I was doing my research, there was no one that I can come to and say, hey, you know, what school do you think is the best? I didn't know what financial aid was.
Right.
Like, I had to figure all of that stuff out on my own and make it work.
Right.
And, you know, now it feels like it was a breeze. Like, you know, you look back, you know, you're like, you forget. You forget how hard it was. And when I really sit down and think about like day to day, like what my day to day looked like when I was in college and even high school, because I left home at 16. So I didn't live with my mom. I was going from family member to family member until I could graduate high school. And that's when I went into college. So it's like, I have been through a lot, and sometimes I forget everything. Exactly. And so when I sit down and really take inventory of those things, I'm just astonished by the transformation that took place from who I was then to who I am now.
Right.
And when you talk about going from being an underdog, I think what's passionate for me is, like, I didn't even realize, you know, what I was capable of. Like in high school, I never had to study for anything. Ever. When I went into college and after the first semester, I saw my GPA. I was like, what? I don't know what
Let's take this back. You gave me somebody else's form.
Yeah, this was not correct. Like somebody was pranking me. But you know, I realized then that I was never taught how to study. Like I was never taught. When we came home from school, it was come home, clean up. You know, I'm the middle child of 5, so I have to make sure everybody else did their homework. You know, we were cooking. We were latchkey kids. You know, so it wasn't like we had that type of structure. So in college, I was teaching myself these habits that my peers had already picked up. You know, they were already aware of. And you know, there were a lot of situations where I would be in new experiences where they just thought it was normal. You know, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, I do that too.
You know, so realizing, you know.
Right. And I think, so when I talk to youth and when I talk to even adults who just don't understand, like, if you only knew what you were capable of. If you only knew how to harness that gift, if you only knew how to have a vision, you have no idea what you're capable of. But because sometimes we don't see those things in front of us, we think that it's so far away. You know? And so for me, I'm passionate about helping people who are those underdogs, giving them the tools. You know, a lot of people who don't have good relationships because, you know, they weren't raised with mom and dad. You know, I don't know how to communicate. I don't know how to, you know, express love or be vulnerable. Well, that's unfortunate. Someone didn't give you the tools. Here they are.
There they are.
You learn to reparent yourself at some point in your life. And one thing I think about, I can so relate to that part where going to school, trying to figure it out, same here, like first generation in my family to go to college. This was before the internet, so I couldn't Google it. I couldn't Google it. But I think one thing that's different when you're young like that is you also don't have the idea that there's certain things that you can't do.
You don't have the limitation.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, because I think about that too. I'm like, oh, I want to leave home and I'm going to go to Houston, and I'm like, you don't have a car. You don't have a job.
Yeah.
How are you going to get around?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So on one hand, we don't have so much of life tainting us. But I do think what would have happened had that also been facilitated or been told what even more of the options or the opportunities are. But I think as adults, we get to a point where, because of, you know, our falls and where things don't go as we hoped, we lose that willingness to just get out there and try something.
Figure it out.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we just are overwhelmed, and then you couple it with not knowing what you're capable. So I like the idea of reminding yourself, like, look how far I came. Look what I have done, not knowing. And now if I'm more intentional about it, where can I get? I love that. Yeah.
So for you, or when you're working with clients, what do you see as the biggest challenge for them when it comes to like having their transformation and moving from one space to a different or better space?
It's always mindset.
Okay.
It's always mindset. And even for me, when I was going through my own transformation, you know, and I tell people transformation is continuous.
Right.
It
Right.
never stops.
Right.
Not a one-time
If
thing.
you get to a point to where you just say, I'm good, like, okay, now you're stuck.
Right. You're about to die.
Right. Either you're stuck or you just settled.
Yeah.
And for me, it's always been about teaching people, and for myself, I'll speak for myself when I say, like, when I was going from the transition from the underdog to the overcomer, my life improved before my mindset did. So I was successful, I had graduated, I got a good job, you know, and I'm, you know, operating as being successful, and people can see my accolades and they're, you know, oh, praising me, you're great. And I'm just like, but am I though?
Right. If you only knew.
Right. Because you can't see it. And one of the things that one of my mentors told me was that, you know, you're going to have to learn how to go from a struggle mindset to a thriving mindset, or a surviving and thriving mindset.
Right.
Because
abundance versus scarcity.
Yep.
exactly, because when you're in the grind and I'm just trying to raise myself up and I'm just trying to become, you know, that overcomer, there is a struggle piece, right? That's the struggle part of your story.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful and you don't realize when it's time for you to switch that mindset to where I'm no longer struggling, because the skills and the tools that you use in a struggling season in your lifetime is very different from what you use when you're thriving, and how you think and how you see things. They're very different. When you're in a surviving mindset or surviving mentality, you're going to be focused on preservation. You know, what can I do to preserve this moment? What can I do to get to the next? I don't have time to think about next week or next month. I'm trying to make it for right now. And so you make decisions that are good for the short term in your relationships, in your businesses, at work, but you don't make decisions that support where you want to be.
Right.
And so when you find yourself in a good place where you should be able to celebrate, you can't celebrate because you're thinking of, okay, but the next fight is coming. The next battle is coming. And so you'll see people who have a lot of anxiety. They have a lot of worry. They constantly feel inadequate, incompetent, not realizing this was your season to dance, and you over here stressed out,
right? Not able to enjoy it.
So it's always mindset, and for me, I had to learn, and I use the phrase all the time: give yourself permission, because when you come from a background like I come from, sometimes it's an intentional decision that I have to say, Brittany, you have permission to be happy. You have permission to enjoy this sweet spot. So let's enjoy it. Let's have fun. Let's smile. Let's be joyful in the moment. The next battle is coming. It's always coming. But for right now, you get to just have fun. You know, and that was a mindset switch that took me a minute to even get comfortable in.
You have to be vulnerable, even just to enjoy it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think I absolutely love, and I feel like I hear this a lot of times, the whole, you get there before you even realize it, right? Like you're already there, but you're still like going.
Because you're trying to get somewhere else then. You got there and then
you chose a new thing to go to, or you can't appreciate this because of that fear. And so many people that have either trauma in their background or just are used to chaos or anything like that, it's very hard when things are like stable. They feel like something's going to happen. They're worried.
Create chaos sometimes,
you
even
can't
if it's in our minds.
And it's that, even like you said, career, I think about couples, of course, that's what we work with, but in those situations, it's like everything is just smooth and I'm uncomfortable because this is not what I'm used to. So then I might create some drama or create some struggle because I'm not used to this. And so Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think that's good to know is that usually the success comes before the mindset shift.
Right.
And so just keep working, but then also stay present in the moment so that you can recognize when it gets here. Because I think we sometimes skip over it because we're so worried about the next moment.
Right.
We're always trying to move on to what else can I do. So when people are going through this process, what are some things that you think they need to keep in mind? Like, I think the big one is what you just said about like the success can come before the mindset shift. But what are some other things that are important for them to keep in mind as they go through this transformation?
What I tell my clients all the time is that if you are uncomfortable, then the process is working.
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
So when you're completely and you feel like you're in control, when you feel like things are going the way you planned and it's manageable, you're not working hard enough. So true growth comes when you are pushed out of your boundaries, pushed out of your limitations to the point to where you're really questioning your sanity. You get to a point to where it's like, because if you think about it, in order for a complete transformation to really happen, everything that you once thought was true has to be challenged.
And that's so unsettling.
It's so unsettling because at one point you really believe that this is who you were. These are the things you value. These are the things that were important. And then you get to you just wake up one day, you're like, I don't think that's important anymore. I don't think that's a priority. And now you're like, but I've always done it this way. What now? Exactly. So it creates a lot of internal conflict that has to be resolved internally before you can move on. But without that process, you cannot transform to a higher mindset, to a higher sense of being. So you're going to question your sanity sometimes. You're going to really wonder, what do I believe in? Who am I? What do I value? And it's when you start asking those tough questions. And I made a Instagram live last night where I said you have to learn how to embrace the mystery of you. That as you continue to grow and as you continue to work on yourself, you're going to always be a constant mystery. Who I was 5 years ago is not who I am today. And so as I'm rediscovering Brittainy, I allow myself to be a mystery. And sometimes people get caught up when they say, you're supposed to I tell people, write who you are in pencil.
I like that.
Not permanent marker.
I like
because
that.
It's going to change and it should change. So as those changes happen, I allow myself to erase this part because I don't really identify with that anymore.
That's changed.
And I am allowed to say that's not me. Or I don't want that anymore. And I can relate erase that part from my life and be okay with it and not feel obligated or I call it committed to bad decisions.
And loyal to these faults.
Loyal to dysfunction, loyal to bad decisions. I can simply say, that was then, but now we have a different mindset.
And that's okay.
And it reminds me so much of like the whole, like the people say, you've changed. And it's like, well, you're supposed to.
Like, thank you. I've been working hard at it.
That is such a compliment because I didn't want to stay where I was 5 years ago or 5 months ago. So I think, that's
one of my favorite Shanae Aiko songs, where she says, like, shame on me for changing. No, shame on you for staying the same, right? And so, you will get that pushback from people around you because you're now changing the dynamics with them.
Definitely.
And that's where the struggle
they're not opting for that change. You opted for the change. They didn't. So that, I think, is part of what the questioning ourselves comes from, where the people around us don't always support the transformation.
Definitely. I mean, and that's another piece of your transformation. When you look at, like, when I walk people through, when we talk about it, I'm like, do you really want this?
You're gonna have to really want it.
Because it means you have to look at every part of your life. So you have to look at your family relationships. You have to look at your friendships. You have to look at every relationship that you have. And now take a new assessment and I ask them, I say, is this a value added relationship? When I interact with you, is there any value added from my life? When I walk out of this interaction, do I feel drained? Do I feel like I just sat here and absorbed all of your mess? Do I feel empowered when I meet with you? If not, if every time, and I have ended relationships, every time I have had an interaction with you, I walk out with a negative emotion.
We can't be around each other.
Expiration date.
Expiration has arrived.
That is a good sign. It's not if they having a bad day and that just happens. But if this is a consistent pattern,
And I think that you begin to become more aware of that as you're doing your own work, because there's your window of tolerance for changes, and the person maybe that got into that relationship or into that friendship was a different person, was maybe wounded on that same level or could vibe on that level. And as you're working on you, that doesn't work for you anymore. You're in a different frequency now. Like you're in a different radio station.
Right.
And that's difficult though too, because it's not that you it's not easy. It's not easy.
No, because it's not even that, you know, you want to distance yourself from this person.
Or that you think you're better than and all that.
Exactly.
It's just, it's not working. And I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm feeling it. When I'm around you, I'm tensing up. I'm anticipating there's going to be some sort of, you know, tension or awkwardness or what, or maybe before I could be around you and listen to all of the negativity or the sarcasm, and now I can't.
You
know, your window of tolerance changes, and you're not willing to maybe engage in the same way as before.
I think a big part of that as well. What I'm thinking about is just like why we should make changes for ourselves. A lot of times when we start our work, it's for other people. Right.
So
I need to fix this relationship, or they need to do this. So I'm just trying to fix this so we can be together. But then as you actually go through that healing and that transformation, you start to realize like, oh, maybe it's just I shouldn't be here anymore. And so that could be extremely scary. If I'm coming to therapy to fix my relationship, and then you're telling me as I'm growing and healing that, oh crap, I don't fit in this relationship anymore. That can be a difficult part of it.
And this is what I will say, you know, there will always be a lonely season in your transformation.
Yes, there's grief.
I tell one of my best friends now, I tell her she came as a result of me actually praying for friends. Because when I was going through my transformation and I finished undergraduate, now I'm going to graduate school. And it was one of the most lonely seasons in my life, because I didn't think, literally, when I went to college, the way that I picked college, first of all, my high school counselor made me do applications. Because I was like, I'm just going to go to ACC. I'm going to go to community college. And she was like, okay, what are you going for? And I literally looked at the list and looked at the one that took the least amount of time. And I was like, this one. And she was like, I'm not going to college. You know, that was the most of my aspirations at the time. So the fact that I had finished a 4-year degree and now was moving on to get a master's level, like I was like, I don't know
environment, and the people that you probably have been around.
My family couldn't identify. My mom, like to this day, I'm a clinical social worker. My mom tells all her friends I'm a psychologist. Mom, I'm a social worker, but you do therapy. Social workers do therapy. My baby's a psychologist.
Dr. Noel.
I told her that she can't do that.
Right. No, I get it.
But it's like, so when I was going there and I moved to Houston, so I'm in a city I don't know anybody, and I was just like so lonely because there was no one that I could talk to about just where I was and how I felt, and the fact that I was in a place that was totally foreign with absolutely zero guidance. You know, so there will always be a season of loneliness whenever you're going through a transformation. And it's not a bad thing. Because it's in that season of loneliness that you figure out who you are. Right? Without all the chatter, without everybody's opinions, without people weighing in on how you feel. But this is the time where you're going to have all those questions about who am I, what do I want, what's important, and the only person who can answer them is you. And that's what you need, unfortunately.
This is so good. This is why I love when we do this. I'm like, yes. It's making me think of, you know, one of my nieces, she's going off to college right now, and remembering that college experience. And like you said, you know, being, same thing here, like, okay, where do I want to go to school? Dallas is too far. I don't know about, San Antonio's too close. Houston seems cool.
Here we go. Pick a date.
But then that loneliness that you talked about, and like, was this a good decision? Like, I think it was a good decision, but I don't know if it was a good decision. So to be able to normalize it, like, that's part of the process.
That's awesome.
This is so good.
So what are your favorite, like, resources, books, podcasts, anything like that you give to clients or people that just are looking to start that process?
There are a lot.
I'm sure.
I think one of the ones that I recently read, it's called Made for These Times, and I was trying to remember the name of the author, but he's called Made for These Times, and it's basically talking about how we kind of tap into our purpose on accident.
Mm.
Like my purpose found me. Like I wasn't, you know, it just happened. You know?
Yeah.
But when it does happen, how to harness it and how to use it. Not just to benefit yourself, but to benefit everyone in what you were brought on this earth to do.
Right.
And it talks a lot about confronting the fear, confronting sabotage, confronting, you know, the internal struggles that you are going to have along the way that a lot of people don't even account for. One of the things that in, you know, expanding my business was the internal resistance that that it's not the world, it's no one outside of you, it's not your friends, it's not your family, everybody's supportive, but the resistance is coming from you.
Yeah.
You know, and how you confront those internal pieces about you they don't want to grow. So that's, I really love that.
I love that. Made for these times. Okay.
That's awesome. What makes you a dope therapist, dope coach?
Well, my clients have said.
What I've heard is.
What I've heard.
That makes you queen.
I'm it's the confrontational. And I know that I'm skilled to be able to do it in a way that is still loving. Like I'm because of, you know, like I said, I've always done trauma. So I'm seen a lot.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot.
Yeah.
I've heard some of the most horrible stories. So I know how painful transformation can be. So I definitely have that heart for my clients. But at the same time, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire.
And hold you accountable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we do it in a way that is supportive. I'm always going to move at the pace that they want to move in.
Yeah.
But as long as we're moving.
Yeah.
Right.
And because you believe in them.
Exactly.
And you're there to hold space and support them through the process. I love that.
I can confront you and then I can listen and support and validate and all of that, but still point out.
And model
Let's
healthy
move.
confrontation.
Right.
I think for a lot of people who, you know, gone through trauma, it can go either way, but, you know, avoiding confrontation is big. So how can we have healthy confrontation? Confrontation doesn't have to be aggressive.
No. And for a lot of people, that's the only type of confrontation they're aware of.
Right.
You know, so when I do show up and I'm like, you know, I believe in you, I support you, and I ask those questions in a very difficult way, and they're like, I don't want to answer this. I'm like, I know. But I'm going to sit right here until we get there.
I got about 45 minutes left.
What would you like to do?
Right. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So why is therapy dope?
It forces us to get outside of our own head. I think my clients do it. I do it when, you know, it's not until you say something out loud and you're like, that thought was ridiculous. Like, how did I even think? Like, when you actually hear yourself saying
when somebody repeats it back to you.
Right. And you're like, oh, I see.
Well, when you say it, it just sounds
I heard a client that says, when you say it like that, and I'm like, I said it exactly like you said it.
Yeah.
I just repeated it back to you.
So many moments when clients are like, as I'm saying this out loud, it really sounds messed up.
Right.
And I think all of therapy, like I tell people, whenever they're against therapy, I'm like, all a therapist does is help you find the disconnects in your thought process and help you find the inconsistencies between what you want and what you're doing.
Right.
That's really all we do.
Right.
We don't work any magic. We don't. All we do is point out where there's an issue.
Right. This is your goal.
Where's your mirror?
How is this getting you there?
Exactly.
Yes. Awesome.
I love it. What are some of the questions up here? What are people saying?
Go ahead.
This one over here says, creating healthy new boundaries where I can love me and you at the same time. Yes. Boundaries are so necessary. Look at Instagram. That's why I love Instagram. Let me see if there's a question.
You know, Instagram always gets way more engaged.
They really do.
They do.
Lots of love. Let's see. I have work I need to do to stay in school and my fear about what is keeping me from doing the work. Yup. That's what we're talking about. Oh my gosh, yes, that's how I know therapy is working. I'm uncomfortable but determined. Yes. So having some issues finding a therapist near me. Yep, that's very common.
Yes. Definitely.
Where can they find?
If you are looking for a dope therapist, you should go to melaninmentalhealth.com first and look at our directory to see if you can find a dope therapist there. But we always say, like, you know, check with your insurance, check with family and friends. But obviously, if you're looking for a brown and black therapist, Melanin and Mental Health is a good place to go. There are other directories, obviously, Psychology Today, Therapy for Black Girls, those also exist. So check them out to find a therapist.
And then this one says, I struggle too because I would love to have conversations like y'all are having with people around me, and I don't have a lot of social support and conversations.
Well, remember, all three of us are therapists. Let's start there, so you can't expect other people to have these type of conversations all the time. But that doesn't mean you can't surround yourself with positive people. Go to networking events. Go to, if you're an entrepreneur. I know I found a lot of entrepreneurs, even if you're not an entrepreneur, a lot of entrepreneurs have done the work, especially,
you have to.
You have to, right.
Oh,
so
yes, you have to.
Even if you're not an entrepreneur, that might be a good place to kind of find some supportive and dope people, just because they have had to do the work to be attempting to like live this life that they desire.
And really, that's some therapy can help with that too.
Yeah.
Right? Because it helps you to develop relational skills. Like I said before, it helps to model healthy confrontation. And I really think that as we continue to do the work on ourselves, the people around us will change.
Yeah.
It just does.
It's a byproduct.
It just does.
When you change and you do your own work, you will gravitate towards certain environments.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And they will gravitate towards you.
Right, definitely.
Her handle, because somebody was asking
that's
for
what
your
I say.
handle.
Tell everybody how to
My
find you.
handle is for both Facebook and Instagram is the same, at Brittainy, Brittany Noel, Noel. So Brittainy Noel.
And we'll definitely have that in the show notes. And then they could, if they want to work with you, they go to BrittainnyNoel.com.
Yes, BrittainnyNoel.com. Right now, you guys can sign up. I have a free Living My Best Life online course that you guys can sign up for if you want to learn more about some of the things that we're talking about now, because in that course, I'm talking about confronting some internal conflicts that really it's just us stopping us from living our best lives.
And someone wants you, so that would be a really good place, because I know you said you do Instagram lives regularly.
Yes,
if somebody wants you to do one on healthy confrontation, because they're wanting to know more about healthy confrontation, so you gotta make sure you connect with her.
I
so
like that.
You can guide us through some healthy conversation.
Let's guide you through.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes.
We appreciate you for joining us.
This was so good.
Yes.
I was feeling after my confrontations.
Your healthy conversation.
Yes.
Right. This is
Use my
always
words.
helpful. Right.
What was I going to say? Okay, so what we have coming up this month on July the
25th.
We have a webinar coming up on
religion, bringing religion to the therapy room.
Right.
Religion and spirituality.
Yes, I'm trying. It's a long title, so bear with me.
She's trying to think of the exact.
Yeah, but you can pull up the details. We're going to be talking, well, not us. Our guest is going to be talking about spirituality, because I know we talk about that all the time, how you will often hear within our communities, just pray about it, give it to God, you don't need a therapist, you need Jesus, all of those. We've all heard that before.
Yeah.
And so it's all about integrating your beliefs, your spirituality into therapy. So it is a webinar that's focused for clinicians that are wanting to work with clients or wanting to make sure that they're incorporating that within their practice. Just, because we do have clients that come to us that's a big part of their lives. And sometimes it can feel conflicting depending on what we're talking about in therapy.
Right. Sometimes therapists, we don't know how to approach the topic, or some therapists may be afraid to approach the topic. So we are going to be guided. This is
July 25th at 7 p.m. And I can't.
We have the long title.
It's on the Melanin and Mental Health page, of course. If you go to Melanin and Mental Health on Facebook, we have it there, and you can sign up for the webinar. It's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a real good
one. Check it out.
All right.
That's all. Minority Mental Health Month and Melanin and Mental Health's IG page hit 25,000. So if you go to melaninandmentalhealth.com, you can get a discount on our merchandise by putting in MMH25K. So make sure you go get that discount and get you some dope merchandise.
Yes.
So,
all right.
That's it.
Thank you so much, Brittainy.
Thank you. We appreciate
so good.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.